Welcome to my demonstration on a bank report analyzer agent that I created in Microsoft Copilot Studio. This agent was created as part of my thesis project on robotic process applications and artificial intelligence in professional service firms. The aim of this agent is to assist with banking professionals when analyzing and comparing annual financial reports of banks in Ireland. So firstly, we'll go through launching the agent, and then we'll run through a demonstration in Microsoft Teams. Then we'll talk about how the agent works, its capabilities, limitations, and extensions. The test questions that we use to evaluate this agent in my thesis project, we used 3 of them, and the aim of these questions were to explore various different aspects of annual financial reports, including accounting policies, sustainability, and ECL calculation. These questions were given to me from a banking professional who suggested these areas of research for the agent. Now we will move to Microsoft Copilot Studio to look at how the agent can be used. This is the home screen of Microsoft Copilot Studio where the agent has been built. By navigating to the Channels tab and selecting Microsoft Teams and 365 Copilot, and by selecting See Agent in Teams, it can then be released to Microsoft Teams. So this is something that your network administrator will do, and users will be able to use it, and they'll be able to see it in this pane where the agents are stored. So firstly, we're going to put the first question into the agent, and while that is working out the answer, it'll take a couple of seconds. We'll go into Copilot Studio and explain how it works. So in the Overview tab, we have details such as the name, description, general instructions of the agent. The general instructions are very important as it sets out how the agent should answer and respond to user queries. So as you can see, I've given a good description of what it should do with a user's query and how it should parse or extract information. And secondly, I've given 3 steps as to how it should answer the question. Here we have the orchestration of the agent. We have enabled generative orchestration, which means that the agent is able to extract several pieces of information from one user query. Classical orchestration, the kind of old way of doing things, it isn't as intelligent and it doesn't offer as good a user experience as it involves the agent prompting the user for various different pieces of information which it extracts individually. This is a much better way of doing it, and it gives a better user experience. Down in the knowledge sources, as you can see here, we do not allow the agent to use its own general knowledge. This means it won't be extracting information from the internet, and that it only responds to user queries by using the knowledge sources that we have given. So the knowledge sources that we have given it, there are 9 sources. They include the financial statement notes, the risk management reports, and the sustainability reports of the 3 banks. They're all uploaded individually, and they all have their own name and their own description, as you can see here for one of them. The description is very important, as the description is how generative orchestration knows which knowledge source to use when answering a user query. So it has to be very detailed, and it has to give a good account of the contents of that knowledge source. If we go back into Microsoft Teams, we can see that the agent has given a response to the query. So firstly, it gives a brief summary, and then it goes and looks at the definitions for default and credit impairment for each bank, and then it looks at significant increases in credit risk for each bank. And then towards the end, it gives a conclusion of key summaries across the banks. It's important to note that the content extracted should always be the same, but the way it's presented by the agent may not always be the same, as that is not outlined or prescribed in the general instructions, but it can be if you wish. So if we navigate to Copilot Studio, within the test pane, we can see how Copilot Studio is answering this query. So here we have the same query coming in, and here on the activity map, we can see how it's answering. So we can see that there's 4 nodes. The first node is a knowledge source. So it extracts knowledge from the AIB financial statement notes, similarly for Bank of Ireland, and similarly for PTSB. It also notices that based on PTSB's risk management report, there is information in it that could be of use. So it extracts information from that report also. The final node is a deep reasoning node. This node uses a different model that's better at problem solving and deep reasoning to then compare and contrast the information gathered from these three nodes. And this produces the comparison aspect of the answer. And here in the test pane, we can see a sample answer outlined. Also, for the next two test questions, we can see that it answers in a similar way. This is the sustainability question, and we can see that the agent extracts information from the sustainability reports. And then for the final question about ECL calculation and the macroeconomic scenarios, we can see that it extracts information from AIB's risk management report, Bank of Ireland financial statement notes, and Perm PTSB's financial statement notes. So obviously PTSB and Bank of Ireland keep this information in a different area to AIB. Moving on to the capabilities of this agent in terms of sustainability reporting. We demonstrated the comparison of topics selected in the material reported on by each bank in terms of the word count and page count and length of section comparisons. This was not done with this agent. It is capable of doing it when the full annual financial reports are uploaded. You were able to compare the length of certain sections. This agent did not have that capability. In terms of repetition, the agent is capable of investigating areas of optimization. However, the primary focus of this agent was for comparison. In terms of sentiment analysis, there is a built-in action, a very basic one that is able to conduct sentiment analysis. However, this feature was not used because the primary focus was for comparison. Also, inconsistencies between director's report and the front section. We were unable to evaluate that because the front section was not included as a knowledge source in this agent. Moving on to the unusual performance trends. The agent was not successful at evaluating these aspects, mostly because the information in balance sheets and cash flow statements is structured data in tables within the PDF, and the agent is not very good at analyzing structured data within unstructured data, i.e. it's not good at analyzing tables within a PDF, especially large tables like a balance sheet and a cash flow statement. It is able to analyze content mentioned around this in other paragraphs, but it wasn't able to extract numeric values for comparison between the banks, which is one downside of this agent. In terms of accounting policies, the agent successfully demonstrated comparison between accounting policies and definitions. In terms of impairment, some of these aspects were demonstrated in the testing questions. However, we could not demonstrate all of these aspects using one prompt, but it is possible to compare all of these impairment aspects, but across 2 or 3 prompts. Moving on to limitations and extensions. So one limitation was the limit to data source sizes due to a 2,500 character limit on descriptions of knowledge sources. So while using generative orchestration, you must give a good knowledge source description, or else the agent will be unable to correctly identify which knowledge source to use. For large pieces of data, such as a 400-page banking report, a 2,500 character limit to describe that 400-page document is not adequate. You are unable to give it enough detail and context as to what the contents of that report is. One extension of this to overcome this issue would be to connect a more sophisticated search module that's better at indexing PDF content. So this could be done through the Azure OpenAI connection, which has a vast amount of specialized AI models that could do this. That's in a kind of pay per use and subscription model, which was beyond the scope of this project. And another limitation of the agent is that we mentioned it earlier, that it struggles with large amounts of structured data within the PDF. One way of overcoming this is to pre-process tables that are within your PDF and upload them via Dataverse, which is a way that Copilot Studio is able to interpret structured data. Now, other possible extensions are scaling the model. So you could add more reports like governance reports, You could add more banks, different types of banks. You could also add reports from several years. You could also have defined answers for certain topics and queries that you want to prescribe how the agent answers. So some questions I have for you about this agent. Firstly, are the testing questions used suitable? Do they ask correct questions? Are the responses generated by the agent answering the queries? Is the answers that it's giving good? And is a tool like this useful for banking professionals? And if so, where do you see it being used? And lastly, thank you for your cooperation and your assistance in making this project happen. I appreciate it.